Tiny bacteria are sending danger signals to your deepest cells right now. That low-grade fire burning beneath the surface of everything you feel, that mental fog, that persistent fatigue, it's not just stress. It's a cellular alarm system being constantly primed by what lives in your gut. When your internal ecosystem is unbalanced, those bacterial metabolites act like microscopic smoke signals crossing barriers into your circulation and even up to your brain. Think of the body as an ancient fortress. When the walls weaken due to poor ecology, tiny intruders transmit danger alarms throughout every chamber. This persistent state isn't failure. It's hypersensory detection, a biological dialectic that dictates whether you function in coherence or discord. We often feel this pervasive mental fog and chronic fatigue, thinking it is just pressure from life. But what if that feeling isn't psychological? What if your gut environment is acting like an overloaded security fence, letting tiny signals slip through into circulation? When our microbial balance shifts, we produce metabolic byproducts that trigger deep-level inflammatory switches in the body, specifically activating pathways like NLRP3 inflammasome. This creates a systemic discord, a low hum of internal stress. That doesn't just affect digestion. It changes how your brain operates, effectively setting a state of cellular alert and persistence throughout the system. We used to think chronic fatigue was just stress, or that brain fog was simply aging. But what if your digestive ecology isn't just influencing digestion? What if it's literally dictating the operational status of your neural hardware? Think of it like a computer overheating not from excessive load, but because the foundational cooling system, your gut barrier, is cracked open and letting in static noise. This constant internal alarm state is what scientists are calling systemic discord or inner dissonance. It activates specialized cellular sensors called inflammasomes that interpret this microbial dissonance as an urgent threat across your whole system. Which means something nobody expected for how deeply physiological status can imprint upon our very sense of self and memory. Forget stress for a moment, because what we are looking at here is deeper than psychology. It's about your body's foundational operating system status, dictated by the bacteria living in your gut. When that ecosystem dips into imbalance, it starts sending internal alarm signals, danger signals recognized by immune cells everywhere. This turns chronic low-grade inflammation from a vague feeling of fatigue into an active cellular state called systemic discord. It's like having constant static on a massive biological broadcast tower. These metabolic outputs aren't just digesting food. They are imprinting onto your body, setting a persistent cellular memory across neural circuits. But if this systemic priming is purely inflammatory, isn't it possible that the gut actually regulates mood positively? I wonder about Dr. Chen's recent work on microbial-derived neurotrophins. But how do these foundational states dictate everything else we experience next? Think of your body not as separate parts connected by wires, but like an enormous self-monitoring city. When something goes wrong in one district, say if the foundational integrity of your gut barrier fails, it doesn't just cause local traffic problems. It starts broadcasting emergency signals into the central network. These danger signals are incredibly precise messengers, and they breach defenses. They reach deep inside the brain, where microscopic cellular sentinels called microglia live. The receptor fires, but how that initial signal gets interpreted by those cells is what fundamentally changes your internal operating system status forever. What happens next determines if this momentary alarm becomes permanent cognitive fog or persistent exhaustion, a biological memory of disharmony we are just beginning to observe. We've been told that persistent fatigue or mental fog is simply a sign of stress, that we are responsible for our own systemic discord. But what if the root problem isn't inside your head? What if it starts in your gut, where every microbial conversation dictates how alert your body should be? Imagine your entire immune system not as an army waiting to fight, but as hundreds of tiny, hyperactive sensors constantly monitoring a complex environment. When those signals become disharmonious due to dysbiosis, these cellular senses get stuck on maximum alert. The resulting cascade is what we call the inflammasome signature. It means your body isn't failing. It's screaming because its foundational ecosystem has shifted. And that scream travels everywhere. But does it ever tell us where exactly to look next? We've been tracking signals of discord across your inner ecology, the subtle hums that feel like brain fog or fatigue, yet originate deep within. Imagine your internal operating system running on corrupted data. The microbiome signature is often that compromised input file. When this foundational integrity falters, it doesn't just affect digestion, it sets a state of sustained systemic alert through processes like NLRP3 activation. Your body isn't failing randomly. It is accurately reacting to disharmony at its root. The takeaway here is observation. Begin tuning into those deep-seated physical feedback loops instead of only attributing symptoms to mindset alone. This shift from symptom reaction to internal status awareness changes everything about self-regulation. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. We often mistake the burnout and brain fog for just stress or modern anxiety. But what if that haze is actually a systemic status report? Your internal ecosystem, your gut microbiome, isn't just digesting food, it's running an operating system. The chemical signatures it produces tell inflammatory story through pathways like NLRP3, acting as cellular sensors to every imbalance. This means true self-regulation starts not with pushing harder, but by observing the deep dialogue between your enteric ecology and your neurocognitive state. Shift your attention from treating symptoms to listening for this foundational signature within yourself. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.